Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm Elizabeth Sautter with Rebecca Brandstetter, and we're here to interview Ross Greene to talk about how parents can support children right now with big emotions and possibly, most likely, challenging behaviors. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Sautter. I'm a speech and language pathologist, and I am the founder of Make Social and Emotional Learning Stick, and this is Rebecca Brandstetter.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca and I am the founder of the Thriving School Psychologists Collective, which is a community that helps school psychologists help kids who have special needs.
And together we're the co-founders and developers of Make It Stick Parenting. And I am ecstatic to introduce Ross Greene. On a more of a casual note, I have been a huge fan of his work for years. I heard him present many years ago, and I actually was honored to present actually on day 2 at a conference that he was presenting out, which was really nerve-wracking for me, but wonderful. He has a philosophy and a curriculum and books that have been a game changer for me as a professional, supporting the teachers and educators and therapists that I train, and also the clients that I support, and my own 2 sons at home who are now teenagers. So on a more of a fancy bio, Ross Greene is the author of the well-known books, The Explosive Child, you see my sticky notes there, and also Lost at School, which is, I'm rereading this book right now and giving it to my son's high school teachers, and Lost and Found. And he is the originator of the model of care known as collaborative and proactive solutions, which emphasizes collaboration between children and adults in resolving problems contributing to challenging behaviors. He has founded the nonprofit organization Lives in the Balance, which provides free web-based resources on his model. And he advocates for behaviorally challenged children and helps us as parents and educators support them with their needs. So Ross, I just wanted to kick it off with everything that's going on right now and acknowledging how much stress and heightened alertness everybody is under right now, with parents, myself, teenagers in the back, managing them being at home under this shelter in place. And also us as educators trying to provide distance learning. It's a lot right now. And if you could just explain a little bit to our audience about your philosophy and a little bit about collaborative and proactive solutions and how we can implement that at home right now.
Well, in its most basic form, what the model has people focused on are the expectations that a kid is having difficulty meeting. In the model, in the CPS model, we call them unsolved problems. And having caregivers and kids solve those problems together, collaboratively, and preferably, far preferably, proactively. The philosophy behind that is kids do well if they can, not kids do well if they wanna. So the belief in this model is that your kid would very much prefer to be doing well. Doing well is preferable. That helps us get rid of the belief that somehow doing poorly is working out well for the kid. But in its most practical form, what we're helping caregivers do is identify the expectations that a child is having difficulty meeting. Once again, those are called unsolved problems. And the model helps kids and caregivers put their heads together and collaborate on solutions to those problems. Now, yes, we are living in very unusual times. Some would say unprecedented, although I am reading a novel right now about World War II in Russia. And it's helping me remember that things could be a whole lot worse. We don't have bombs dropping on us. We don't have, most of us are not short of food. We have heat. We have things that we can do to keep ourselves healthy. So good time for people and kids who may have led charmed existences up until now to see that life is not always a bed of roses, not always a bowl of cherries. And, I've always felt that adversity is what fosters resilience. Having things go well is not what fosters resilience. Adversity is what fosters resilience. These are times that require that we rise to the challenge, and that includes our kids. So the hardest thing about now, of course, is that there's a whole lot more togetherness, and parents are now in a position where they sort of have to monitor schooling. You know, in the good old days, meaning 3 weeks ago, you sent your kid to school and they did it for you, right? Now, if your kid is doing distance learning, you are propping your kid in front of a laptop and making sure that they are paying attention. So parents have now entered the classroom, right? And not like it was in the good old days. All of us, of course, are eager for a return to some sense of normalcy, but if there's a silver lining, togetherness can be a good thing, and resilience is a good thing too.
Ross, I think that's really great to talk about expectations. So I have a 5 and an 8-year-old, so I'm a homeschool mom now. In addition to working from home, I have barred the doors right now. There's a decent chance they'll come in and I'll be like that BBC guy where the kid comes rolling in. It happened yesterday when I was trying to be professional. So one of the things that I think is really interesting about this time, I agree, connection is so critical right now. And it is an opportunity. I got to build a Harry Potter Lego castle with my kids. I have never done that before. There were 6,000 pieces. We're done. I don't know what to do now. But there's an opportunity here. But what I'm noticing is, you know, in my kids, and then, you know, people are posting online in our Make Social Learning Stick community, some challenging behavior. So kids who never show challenging behaviors, they're coming up. Kids who show challenging behaviors, it's getting amplified. And there's some parents who are talking about screens. So a lot of the challenge is around this new normal of we put our kids in front of the screen to do whatever the teacher's doing, a Zoom call or whatnot. And then getting them off is hard, or they want to be on it all day, or they're like Elizabeth said, now it's Saturday, so my teenagers are just going to want to be on it. And what I'm seeing all over in Facebook memes and in our community is power struggles. Can you talk a little bit how your model sort of explains these challenging behaviors, and more importantly, what can parents do to collaborate with kids to solve those unsolved problems?
Well, behavior usually occurs, almost always occurs, when a kid is having difficulty meeting a particular expectation. And we adults have demanded that the kid meet the expectation anyways. That's when behavior occurs. And sometimes I distinguish between lucky and unlucky behaviors. Lucky behaviors, whining, pouting, sulking, withdrawing, crying. Unlucky, screaming, swearing, hitting, spitting, biting, kicking, throwing, destroying. But no matter what the behavior, whether lucky or unlucky, it is communicating. I'm stuck. There are expectations I'm having difficulty meeting. I think the hard thing for a lot of families right now is that the screen time that they only had to manage over the weekend, they now have to manage 7 days a week. And screens have become a default activity for many kids. It's what they do when they got nothing else to do. And there's a lot of kids who got nothing else to do right now, or not a whole lot else to do, because they are socially distancing, and they're not able to be with the kids who they would normally hang out with. So I don't think that our response to that should be power. I think that's going to create conflict. Power always does. I think our response to that is we're going to be a whole lot better served if we are collaborating, because collaborating is what brings people together. But we also have to recognize that the playing field has changed a little bit. And number one, your kid, because of boredom, because of social isolating, distancing, is going to default to screens more often. And number one, that's understandable because that's what they've always done, except that they haven't always found themselves in these circumstances either. So that might require an adjustment of expectations on the part of us parents. At the very least, it's going to require revisiting with the kids what our expectations are, and collaborating with kids on solutions if they're having difficulty meeting those expectations. That's what I think we're looking at. But, you know, in this model, we are taking the perspectives of both parties. I get the parent's perspective. It is frequently painful to watch your kid's brain being sucked into a screen. It's painful even when it's only over the weekend. It's even more painful when it is more often than that. But we have to take the kid's perspective too. There's a lot of things that they used to do that they're not able to do right now in the era of COVID-19, and screens are their default activity. Instead of quote unquote laying down the law and becoming the enforcer, I think we're a whole lot better served if we're collaborating with our kids on this new playing field that we're on, and to solutions that for expectations that the kid is having difficulty meeting, whether it's screen time or how we're treating our brother or you name it. We're together now. Collaboration has actually never been more important.
Thanks for that, Ross. It's so helpful because I have 2 teens at home as well. And we're managing teens and screens all day, every day. And it's actually part of it. I'm trying to be empathetic towards them, is that it is how they're connecting with their friends online as well. So it feels uncomfortable to me, but I'm trying to step into their shoes and support and change our expectations. I actually have on my Facebook, I put our little screen agreement about what we came up with collaboratively together with your philosophy in mind. Can you just tell us, because we get a lot of questions about people who ask about rewards and consequences. Can you, and that's probably, you know, happening a lot right now with families at home with their children. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Rewarding and punishment are tools that help adults use their power. When you're implementing collaborative and proactive solutions, you are not using power to solve problems. Once again, power causes conflict. You are collaborating, and rewarding and punishing actually has zero to do with what it looks like when kids and caregivers put their heads together to try to, number one, hear each other's concerns about a particular issue and come up with a solution that addresses the concerns of both parties. There's nothing about rewarding and punishing, has absolutely nothing to do with the process of solving problems collaboratively. Rewarding and punishing is usually simply the way in which adults impose their will. I don't think this is the time for imposition of will. We are living in unprecedented, unusual times, and we are simply magnifying frequently issues that families have been having together, solving problems together for a very long time. We're going to have to do this together. We're living together now, right? This is not, I'll send you to school, I'll send you to soccer, I'll send you off to be with your friends. This is, we got to do this together. And that's something our national politicians have been saying, not necessarily living, but saying. In your family, it's the reality. Y'all got to do this together. You all got to make this work in a way that works for all of you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Elizabeth. I
was just going to say on that note, I really appreciate your time, but I just wanted, if you can give us a way for parents to read more about what that would look like. I know you have I always direct them to your YouTube clips and obviously your curriculum and books, but just a go-to tip or what that would look like for parents right now, in either proactively, hopefully, but maybe even in the heat of the moment too, because that's happening quite frequently.
Yep. Well, the number one goal is to stay out of the heat of the moment. And luckily, the problems that are putting us in the heat of the moment are predictable if we simply make a list of them. Yep. And the problem-solving process has been the same 3 steps for 30 years. But people can learn all about this on the Lives in the Balance website, the website of my nonprofit, livesinthebalance.org. And there's a walking tour for parents in the CPS resources section, just filled with streaming video and audio programming. So they don't have to buy a book. They just have to get on the computer and hang out on the website for about 45 minutes to an hour, which I know isn't quick. I wish that there was a soundbite that I could give people. Here's how you solve problems collaboratively and proactively, and have people just be able to do it. But there's a ton of video. It's all free on the website. That's the place to go.
Ross, thank you so much. Elizabeth, you stole my question. I was
I'm
going
sorry.
to I was going to ask Ross where folks can go. I think also, Ross, would you be so kind as to give one parting message to our community of parents out there and the kiddos that they are supporting, whether we be educators, school psychologists, speech language pathologists, moms and dads, caregivers? What kind of message would you like to give right now about the potential we have in the situation to help our kids who are struggling?
You know, I'm not one to put a silver lining on everything, but this is an opportunity for us to get better at something we've needed to get better at all along, except now the stakes are higher and we are under greater duress. No time like the present to move away from power and move toward collaboration in solving problems with kids. If there's ever been a time that people really needed to know how to do that, this is it.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for that, Ross.
Thank you both for inviting me to do this.
Thank you for your time.